If you're going into partnership with somebody, listen to yourself. If something feels off, if it just doesn't feel like it's gonna be a great fit for the long term, don't do it. It takes time to build something really awesome because you lift each other up and you allow each other to thrive professionally and personally, and that's the best. Nurses, nurse coaches, welcome back to the Nurse Coach Collective podcast, where today we are talking about the power of partnership.
Yes, the power of partnership, because it is so important in order to be successful, in order to thrive, in order to enjoy life, that you are surrounded by people who lift you up, people who support you, and how exactly to go about cultivating that kind of relationship and partnership. It's not always easy.
Yeah, so to give you examples, we're going to be talking about Heather and I's personal, professional relationship, and how when we noticed like that was really working for us, that we kind of replicated that in other aspects of our lives, surrounding ourselves with really, really awesome people. So I'm stoked about today's conversation, and y'all, hook to end. If you stick around with us until towards the end of today's episode, we have an exciting announcement, something that we have yet to share publicly with the world, and we are super stoked.
Secret, and we're ready to let it out of the bag, but not until the end of the episode.
So let's dive in. Let's reference some bullet points here and get this party rocking, shall we?
Yeah. So on our past couple of episodes, we had a lot of fun getting to interview each other and really get to know each other on that deeper, more intimate and personal level.
I feel like I got to know some things about you that actually I may not have known in exactly that way before, which surprised me.
I hope so, and that's pretty cool because we know each other pretty well. But definitely we got a lot of feedback from our fellow nurses and nurse coaches that was like, whoa, there's this whole other side of you and your hobbies and your interests and your passions and just your personality that I had no idea about.
Turns out we are well-rounded human beings.
We try.
Thank you.
We try. As we were collecting questions from all of you, from our fellow nurses and nurse coaches, what we noticed is that many of your questions were not necessarily directed towards me or towards Peter, but they were really directed towards both of us as a team and as a partnership, and really wanting to get some more clarity and do some more digging around that topic. So question number one on some people's mind. For some, this is still unclear, so let's talk about it. Wanting to know, are we, in fact, just business partners, or are we business and life partners as well?
You want to take this one?
Well, if it's not already clear, now let's make it abundantly clear. Yes, we are business partners, and we are also life partners.
Just like this is both our podcast studio and our living room.
Exactly right. Yeah, we've been together for quite some time, going on
10
over
years.
a decade. Yeah.
10 years that we've known each other. We've known each other for a long time. Business partners for 6 or 7 out of those years, which is kind of cool. I'm grateful that we had time not in that dual relationship, because that was complicated waters to navigate at first, for sure, to learn how to do that and to separate those two entities and to kind of coexist as personal and professional partners. That was a learning curve that we can talk about in a little bit. But and I think what's interesting there is, whenever we're like choosing to share information, what do we always ask ourselves? Is this going to serve the mission of nurse coaching? Is it going to push that forward? Or is it going to take away maybe from our nurses' experience of learning?
So you're talking about like why
it may
coaches
not be abundantly clear.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that comes down to one of the big things that we teach inside of the Nurse Coach Collective, right? Is when nurse coaches are wondering, when can I share personal information with my clients and when can I not? And our answer always is the same, right? It's, when does it serve your client, right? When is it going to serve the greater mission of the work that you're doing? So for us, yes, of course, there's a side of us that really enjoys having some semblance of privacy, but we also love to be open books when it's going to serve and support our community.
I guess what we've discovered is that there aren't so many instances where, diving too deep into our personal relationship actually shares to forward the movement of nurse coaching. So,
except to satiate the curiosity, which many nurses and nurse coaches turns out have.
Here we go. Curiosity satiated, dual relationship on lock.
Exactly. Okay. And now this one is going to go a little bit even deeper in the satiating curiosity realm, because the next biggest question people want to know is, how do we meet? So Peter, How did we meet?
I know what your side of the story is in the pre-lead up, but the night before, or a couple nights before, I was sitting and reflecting and asking the ether, asking the universe, the divine, something for a partner. I was ready at that moment in my life for a partner. I was very specific. I was like, she's got to be beautiful. She's got to be strong. She's got to love the outdoors. I think actually she's got to be a nurse. I don't know why that was on my list. And she also has to come like into music, like be into music. And then literally a few days later, we're set up on a date to meet at a tea shop.
Noon on a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday.
Yes.
And turns out you checked all those boxes for me, which was really, really cool. It was one of those moments where like I was really validated by being able to kind of turn, my deepest wants in a partner. And then there you are. That was an amazing time to meet.
I love that story because it's like just the perfectly romantic way that I would want our souls to be called into this moment of meeting together. And also it was fun. We have this silly, funny story of moments after we meeting, we're on the ground triaging spilled honey at the tea shop, and just, it's given us lots of good memories to look back on. And we might not talk about our lovey-dovey personal side too often, but it is most certainly there and is an underlying current that I think runs in everything that we do. It allows us to bring like this softer side of ourselves, and certainly this deeply passionate side of ourselves, to not just our personal relationship together, but all of the different realms of our relationships together.
And it provides like a real deep sense of groundedness when we are endeavoring on, say, perhaps more risky ventures in practice and in business. Yeah, it's been incredibly beneficial to have that personal relationship that provides a sense of cohesiveness, but like groundedness, stability, but also excitement. Yeah, all the things.
It's not one word. That's why it's hard to find.
There it is.
So, most people sort of assume that we met somewhere along the lines in nursing, or that maybe nurse coaching brought us together, or one of our shared interests and hobbies like kite surfing or music, but
completely unrelated.
Nope. None of those things. 12 o'clock on a Wednesday at a tea shop. You never know where you are going to find
the love of your life.
The love of your life. All right, we got it out there. Feeling good still?
Feeling good. It's a little strange to talk about.
It is a little strange.
Yeah, I mean, you're still only talking about this at, say, not here. So, but I think we're doing pretty good. Not in a
work environment, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so next question on folks' minds is, how did we decide to work together? Like, how did we decide once we are 4 years into our personal relationship together, right? We're each off in our own individual nursing worlds that we've...
Don't quote us on that years thing, by the way. We've lived many lifetimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have no idea.
Our count of years is a rough estimate, but at least we both do the same thing. So we're never blaming each other for not being exactly right.
Trying to get it right.
Ballpark year count. Yeah. So how did we make that decision to go from being life partners to jumping into being willing to go into business together? And the theme that seems to come up is like, was that scary? Was that a scary decision to make, to dive into something so big together, like starting a business together?
Was it scary? It wasn't scary at all. I think it just, starting a business was way scarier than deciding to do it with your partner. I think we actually benefited from it, because if you go into a partnership with somebody inside of business, it is like a marriage. I've heard that from many, many people who have gone into partnership inside of business. And so the fact that we already had a baseline level of deep, deep trust, a working knowledge of how each other handles different types of emotional situations,
stress,
how
challenges.
we cope, move through stress, all those things, I think that actually really benefited and almost made the whole process a lot less scary, because where maybe I would be weaker, you could come in and compensate with your strengths. And where you weren't so strong, I could come in with my strengths and help you kind of move through and navigate certain situations. So I think it's way more scary to maybe buy a house together, which
10 years later, we still have not done.
It was 10 years later, we still have not done, clearly, for so many different reasons. It wasn't necessarily scary for me at all. Not that I remember.
Same thing, maybe it was scary in that there was a whole lot of uncertainty, but it was less uncertainty about us and more uncertainty that I had about business in general, or about nurse coaching being new, or about myself as a business owner and an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I really trusted you to succeed in business, perhaps more than I trusted myself in the beginning. It's easier to trust others sometimes because we are our own worst enemy, filling ourselves with fear and self-doubt. And so that was actually very helpful for me to be able to balance out my own fears with the confidence that I had in you as a partner.
It was crazy helpful.
I think what I do remember really clearly is that some of the fear that I experienced was actually not my own. It was fear that was imposed upon me or, gifted to me by other people in our spheres, whether that was friends or family or coaches.
Friends as family so much. It was like randos at networking events. Man, it's crazy how people would just dump their bullshit onto you. And I'm like, dude, I didn't ask for any of that. Thank you for expressing all the stuff that you went through in a previous experience, and for maybe giving me some warnings. And, always I listen.
We learn, we take what we can learn, but we had quite a few
stuff sticks with you.
Quite a few people who told us, if you don't hire me to support you, then your relationship is going to crumble and your business will never succeed.
Is that what they were doing?
That's what they were doing.
Oh.
The icky sales techniques of you will fail if you don't.
Makes sense now.
And lucky for us, we learned from that, and we learned what not to do in business and how not to communicate with people. We heeded warnings with our own caution and with our own intuition as guides so that we could learn from it without being held back or inhibited or really paralyzed and unable to move forward in something we knew we really wanted.
Yeah, I feel like we've really matured as business owners and life partners simultaneously, but there was like huge challenges, especially for the first year, because like this, I think people underestimate the stress of a startup. I mean, that's just what I call any new entrepreneurial endeavor, whether that's starting private practice or something different, right? There's a lot of stress that goes into that. And when you're trying to figure it out and navigate it on a personal level, it can be really, really hard. And then when you're trying to also balance that with the dynamics of a personal relationship, there were definitely a lot of challenging moments. Like, I think the biggest thing was figuring out, slowly we figured out division of labor.
Yes.
Which I just didn't even know what that was. Now I have like a frame of reference for it, which is kind of like if you think about inside the hospital, right? You have doctors, nurses, assistants, x-ray techs, right? All these different people doing different tasks because you can't possibly do everything.
Right.
We didn't really know that because in business, all of a sudden you're like, everything's new. You forget to bring over these concepts from other parts of your life, like division of labor.
And neither one of us had the experience to say like, hey, I've been in business before. I know how this works. I know what I'm good at. I know what you're good at. Here's how we should divide this up, right? We were both learning as we went.
Exactly. But as we gained more clarity on that really helped. And also, I think the other thing that was really important was simply learning, two more things. Learning to communicate really effectively, and then stopping talking about it. Because, something's new, a new business, it can be all consuming, right? And so being like, we watched some really dumb rom-com. I can't remember what it was about.
Of the many I've made you sit through and you've enjoyed.
There was this couple where they had like a teenage daughter or something. Her name was Paris, and that was all they ever talked about. And they were like, they went out on a date and they're like, let's not talk about Paris just for one night. And so we nicknamed our business Paris. And so when we would go, and we still do this to this day, we're like, no, the rule today is no talking about Paris.
And it's hard.
It's hard at first.
Yeah.
Now we can kind of more easily tune into that. But then that last piece was around communication. So want to talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have had the benefit of learning and growing as nurse coaches, as we have learned and grown as business owners, and then as partners in and out of the business world. So all of those things, communication is deeply embedded and deeply foundational. And we've had to learn how to communicate in our own unique ways. We've had to learn how to make sacrifices and make changes and compromise and meet each other where they're at. Because I think when you and I met, we had very different ways of approaching problems and communicating. And what we have learned, actually, one of the biggest gifts that I would say nurse coaching has given to me is this concept of how to create agreements rather than have expectations of each other. Is something that we teach in the course. And so we brought that not only to our personal life, but to our business relationship, and knowing that everything we did had to be open communication and a conversation about how to let go of any expectations that either of us had, which is only going to set us up for disappointment or, frustration or any of those things. And instead approach it from a lens of how can we co-create an agreement around this so that we both know what to expect. We're both on the same page and we both feel like this is going to be a mutually good path forward for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think nurse coaching is critical. Like, we were just having support hours with 2 collectives today. And something that is so interesting that emerges is like, once you go down the path of becoming a nurse coach, you can't see the world differently because it's such an effective model for not only serving other people and helping them to heal, but also just in living your life and communicating more concisely, with more clarity, knowing yourself better. All of those things, I can't overstate their importance when it comes to starting a business.
Yeah, you mean you can't not see the world differently, right? Like once you become a nurse coach, you can't unknow what you know, you can't unsee what you see.
Yeah, and all those tools really are critical to success in entrepreneurship. The final thing that I'll say that I think was really, really beneficial is that we each had our own individual support when we continue to, in various capacities, always like have somebody there who's a third party, whether that's a coach, a mentor, business coach, if we're taking an online course, right? We're always doing something individually to better ourselves because we can support each other, but way easier sometimes to not have that conversation with you.
Yeah. You can't have all the conversations only with each other.
No, you go crazy. And it just doesn't work because there's too many emotions involved. Sometimes there's a lot of baggage. You can't see clearly. You're in the haze of it. And so I really think that was critical in the early stages and really has proven to be just accelerates everything and allows us to be a much more dynamic force when we're together and to be so much more clear in our communication, which allows just everything to unfold a lot more fun.
That's what it comes down to is yes, we want to be successful. Yes, we want to serve and support as many nurses and nurse coaches as we possibly can, but we want to enjoy the process and we want to have fun. And unless you have all of those elements, you lose that final part. And then what's the point? I think we actually covered 2 of the other biggest questions that people were hoping we would touch on, which is, what are some of the best techniques for having a really great partnership together? And this is super important because how many nurse coaches do we know who have created their businesses or created workshops or retreats or programs now by forming partnerships with other holistic providers or with other nurse coaches? So partnerships are a really awesome opportunity, but you got to know how to do them successfully and you have to have some tools up your sleeve. So things that you just touched on, number 1, communication, right? Communication is everything. Agreements, coming at it from that perspective of knowing that as humans, we're going to come in with our own expectations of each other and of how business is going to go. And the best thing we can do is wipe the slate clean of expectations and instead come at it with those mutually accepted agreements. You talked about also finding out what our roles are, right? How to
division of labor,
do that division of labor.
Also being flexible and being willing to do. For me, there is no job that's too small. I mean, I'll delegate all day long, but also I'll sit there and do data entry. Nothing is below me. If I can avoid it, I try not to. But also, if there's something that you can't do in this moment, I'll take it on, and same. So yes, division of labor, but don't be absolutely rigid. You have to be flexible and really dynamic inside of a partnership.
The moment that I say, oh, well, that's your job, Peter, I don't do that work, is the moment that we're probably going to run into some issues.
Certainly.
Those firm lines are only going to create conflict or problems. Another thing I remember is in the very beginning of us jumping into business, we had people telling us, well, you need to get that division of labor right in the beginning, and you need to have it contractually written up that says, what your role is and what your role is and how that's all going to play out. And that actually made me very nervous in the beginning. Because I remember thinking, how am I going to create a contract for this thing that I don't even understand yet? It's still evolving from nothing into something. And we made that mutual agreement of, we're actually not going to do that. That might work for some people, but that's not going to work for where we are at now. And what that allowed us to do was to be flexible and to grow and to find out, what are you great at? What am I great at? So that we can step into the roles where we naturally excel. And also, what do you love and what drives you crazy? And same for me, so that we can lean on each other in the areas that we most want support, but also we get to really spend our time in the areas that we most enjoy.
You also get a universal awareness. There's nothing that you do that I don't know how to do, and vice versa. Like at some level, you're clearly better at some things than I am, and I'm better at some things than you are. But like at a baseline working knowledge, like you can at least get by inside of it. And I think that's really important. Like the owner, the practitioner, we need to be able to crush in all areas if push comes to shove, and at least kind of muddle our way through. And so, I think that piece is important. And the final thing that I want to, for me, the other thing that's coming up for me is around trusting yourself. So I talked earlier about like how when we went into business together, that we already had a baseline level of trust with each other.
Yeah.
If you're going into partnership with somebody, listen to yourself. Like if something feels off, even after talking through it with the person, and even if you really like them, if it just doesn't feel like it's going to be a great fit for the long term, if you're just going to go in partnership with somebody for like a couple months, don't do it. I would say like it takes time to build something really awesome together. So like you want to commit to the long haul. And if something feels off about that person or about your dynamic, then you're probably right. Take some time to slow down because you're probably right.
Yeah. And I mean, that comes down to yet another fundamental skill that you learn as a nurse coach, which is to trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
To trust your intuition, to listen, to access your intuition first, and then to know how to trust it and listen to it. And
work with a coach to figure that out.
Yeah.
And find a nurse coach, find a colleague, find somebody else who has no involvement, no attachment to the situation.
Right.
And who can really challenge you to do a stress test of, does this feel right?
Okay, so here's another question that I love because I know you and I have wrestled with it, battled with it in our own way, which is, here we are, two humans, two nurse coaches working together in a nurse coaching business. Do we coach each other is the question. And how do we navigate that?
You answer first.
Well, I love this question because, as I said, it is one that I think we have had to learn to develop a healthy relationship with, because every nurse coach knows that in the beginning, when you are learning the new tools, new skills, new mindsets and modalities of becoming a nurse coach, you, first of all, are going to be hard pressed not to be a nurse coach in all these different areas of your life. As you said, right? Once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. You just, they infuse into who you are as a being and as a communicator. And on the other side, you're really excited because you want to get out there, you want to practice this stuff, and you know that you can use what you know and what you've learned to serve and support people, to really help others. So what that means is you come into your relationships sometimes hot and heavy as a nurse coach, and it may sometimes be very welcome and well received, and it may sometimes not be. And so you and I were kind of like both doing that together at the same time because we were learning to become nurse coaches at the same time. I think we were coaching ourselves. I think we were coaching everyone around us. I think we were coaching each other.
We were being coached, everything.
It took a bit of time for us to figure out how to do that in a way that was welcome and well received and really helpful. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I distinctly remember driving home from our training and I was like, I thought I was being all sneaky. And I was like, drive in, like asking you coaching questions, and you were playing along and playing full out, I guess we could say. I thought like I was really flying under the radar with that and just being really good
like
at
stealth nurse coaching.
Stealth nurse coaching. But it was abundantly obvious. And you called me out on it later and you were like, yeah, I was playing along.
I remember I used to be a little sensitive to that. And I used to be kind of quick to get on the defensive, which is not one of my best personality traits, but sometimes it does come out. And when you would ask me, a nurse coaching style question that was more challenging, more provocative, more really putting me on the spot and asking me to think about something for my best interest, right? So that I could get out of my own stories or out of my own head or think of something from a new perspective. And when you would ask me those questions in the beginning, I would shut down, right? Do you remember that? I would get like kind of small, or I would feel like I was being accused of something. And sometimes
it was very not you.
Yeah. And sometimes to this day, I still have the same response, and I catch myself or you catch me, and then we work through it. So I guess, how did we go from that point where we were clumsy and we were awkward and we were coaching each other maybe in the wrong way to now where we're at, I think, where we do better at coaching each other in the right way?
Practice and patience. I keep saying this, but relying on others. I think there's a lot less stress now in our practice, in our business, in our lives than there were 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Because we've, evolved and have kind of grown up in all of those facets. And so there's a deeper level of confidence in all things, personal and professional. And so I think that's really, really helped. But that in conjunction with having other people, so we don't have to share every little worry and every little fear with each other, because that can be heavy sometimes. Partners are amazing, and they don't have to carry the entire weight of another soul. That's why we have friends. That's why we have family. That's why we have nurse coaches in our lives, to be able to support us without you needing to carry the entire weight of Peter's bullshit sometimes. Yeah. So that way I can kind of talk through that and elevate myself, and bring a more full version of me to our personal and professional life. So
I think some balance there, and having that outside perspective and other people, other resources. And then I also think, I feel like I keep coming back to like these wisdom bombs or the themes that are truly embedded all throughout the nurse coaching course. But the other thing that's coming up for me is permission, right? Permission. We always talk about this inside of the program, which is that nurse coaching needs to occur inside of a container in a relationship where you have permission to coach. Otherwise, you're coaching at someone, you're asking questions at someone, you're interrogating someone, rather than having a relationship that's really therapeutic and beneficial and healing and growth oriented. And so I think what we do now that's really different from what we did, years and years ago, is that either one of us will come to the other and say, hey, I need help around this. I need you to ask me challenging questions and help me work through this and coach me through this. Or the other one will see an opportunity to do that, but will remember to pause and slow down and be like, okay, I know what I would be asking you if you were my client. Is it okay if I ask you that style of questions? Is that going to be helpful for you in this moment or not? And just getting that buy-in and permission from each other, it changes everything.
And I would say, we use a lot of the tools of nurse coaching, but do we coach each other directly? Like, do we sit down and have nurse coaching sessions with each other? No, that's not something that would really be beneficial.
Not unless we're practicing something, for a call we're doing or a conference we're having, or.
I think we did a lot of practicing together early on, and that was awesome. But over the years, we've kind of moved away from that.
No, Peter is not my nurse coach, and I am not. I am not yours.
No, absolutely not. But we are most excellent business and life partners together who have really found, I would say, a deep flow state, to be able to do awesome work while also having boatloads of fun doing it, and really elevating our communication style to where we're very clear and we can kind of enjoy work together on a deep, deep level. And we can get to be really creative and do all the things and serve and support others while also ensuring that we're well taken care of as people, humans, colleagues, professionals.
And isn't that an important distinction to make that you just said there? Is like, I am not your nurse coach, and we do not sit down and have hour-long sessions every week. But that is a totally separate thing from our ability to bring in coaching techniques and tools to our relationship to help us be successful. And I really think that of the teams of people that we've seen, of the nurse coach partnerships, of the nurse coaches we know who run, workshops together or educational programs or retreats, whatever it is, one of the things that allow them to be successful is that they know how to coach each other in some capacity. They know how to ask for feedback from each other. They know how to provide feedback from each other. They know how to ask for help. They know how to communicate. They know how to listen and hold space. So all of those things are coaching, I would say. That is what it means to nurse coach someone else. It just doesn't always look like that, typical coach client sit down formal conversation.
And I think another really big benefit that we haven't talked about that I want to touch on briefly is that our relationship and going through all of that together, it's kind of like how in the nurse coach course you have your peer coaches, and it's really this safe container to try out new things.
Yeah.
Where you can get messy and get weird. And we have done that where we've been able to try out new things with each other. That's allowed us to really kind of replicate our partnership with our team and the people who work alongside us at the Nurse Coach Collective, whether it's the instructors, the onboarding team, our administrative team, and to kind of, again, take the skills of nurse coaching and to apply them very strategically inside of all of those partnerships, because that's really how I look at all of that. We don't really have a very hierarchical system at the Nurse Coach Collective. It's very much, we try to promote high degrees of autonomy as much as possible, because I really think that's how people operate at their highest
very
degree of effective.
Supported autonomy.
But with tons of support.
Yeah.
Do we have, hour-long sessions with our team sometimes? Of course. Like whenever they need support, I'm always here for them. You're always there for them. But, you can take this enormous wealth of tools and what it means to show up as a nurse coach and bring that into all of those different relationships, all those different professional partnerships. And like if you're working in a hospital, you're working at an organization, if you're starting up your own practice, if you're like reaching out to providers for more professional partnerships, you're going to be able to do that over and over and over again and to use those tools. And so, we kind of tend to talk about nurse coaching as this like one-off experience of, we're either coaching for an hour in one-to-one or inside of a group, but any nurse who has become a nurse coach understands that it ends up being this entire new way of being and operating inside of the world. And that extends into personal relationships, professional partnerships, and professional relationships as well.
Which is why we hear so many nurse coaches when they're graduating, they share their feedback and they're like, I have become a better nurse coach, yes, which is what I've expected, but I've also become a better bedside nurse. I've become, a better wife, a better partner, a better daughter, a better sister, a better all of these things, because you can't help but have it infuse into your being, just the essence of kind of who you are and how you communicate. I love that. And yeah, Peter, thanks for bringing that up, because I think this is a awesome opportunity to give a huge shout out to our amazing team. Truly, right here at the Nurse Coach Collective, we have such a dynamic, awesome, powerful team of some of the coolest nurse coaches on the planet.
Your eyes watering up right now?
They did.
Mine
Your
are
eyes
too.
watering up right now.
Just thinking about you guys makes my heart really warm. Yeah, we gotta bring some of them on here ASAP.
Yeah, and I think like what is this emotion that comes to the surface? I mean, I think it's because really these human beings who are on our team, they are nurse coaches who continue to just blow the ceiling off of what is possible in this field as nurse coaches. I mean, again and again, they're surprising us. They're just showing us things that are possible that we never knew about. And they are so professional, so supportive, so, loving and caring for every single nurse and nurse coach that they support inside of this program.
Including us.
For us, always trying to support the mission, support the growth, and us as humans. And we do the same, because if you're going to have a team, you got to make it awesome, and you got to make sure everybody feels awesome. We have said that from day one. Like, if this business ever goes anywhere, if this business ever grows to be bigger than just the two of us, and we get to the point where we have a team, then we want to invest our whole hearts and souls into our team to make sure that they feel loved, they feel cared for, they feel supported, they feel a part of everything that we're doing, so that we can have this experience that we most want for ourselves. And isn't that hopefully what everyone else wants when they join a team?
The power of partnership.
The power of partnership, which is
Bringing it back.
Which is not only just 1-2 partners. You know, it can be an entire team of people, and we're just so grateful for our partnership together and our partnership with the most incredible team that we have.
Yes, sisterhood, brotherhood, peoplehood, whatever that word is for comprehensive. I can't think of what it could possibly be. So I'm going to go with peoplehood. But yeah, that is like, it is such a powerful, powerful tool, because you lift each other up, you support each other, and you allow each other to thrive professionally and personally. And that's the best.
So as you are listening to this episode, you know, I would say one of the takeaways that I hope that every nurse coach can have is find your person or find your people, right? It doesn't matter if it's a fellow nurse coach or not. If it is, great, because then you're coming in with all of these tools and skills that we're talking about, and you can kind of practice them and live and breathe them together. But support is so important, and we can, yes, be incredible supports for our own selves, but how can you focus on having a really powerful partnership with whoever it is that you're in business with, whoever it is that you are doing life with, whoever your friends are, your colleagues are, your coworkers are at work, and where can you kind of take some of these things that we're talking about and find ways to improve upon those relationships so that they feel more supportive for you and in service of you, and so that they feel more fun, right?
Well said. Good homework.
All right. What do you say? Are we ready for announcement time?
Oh, let's go. Yeah.
All right. So Peter and I have a little announcement, which is a big announcement. It is perhaps, as I said, the biggest announcement we've ever had of all of the things that we have ever launched. And that is, I'm too nervous to say. I'm too nervous to say.
You can do it. I'm here for you. I'm holding space.
I can do it. Hold my hand.
Yeah, all right.
All right. And that is that we are having a baby.
Woo!
So here come the tears again. And if you want to see tears, this is a good plug to remind you all that this is not just a podcast, but these are also videos on YouTube you can watch and come see both of our tears. And if you want the bump update for our viewers, here it is. So Peter and I are having a baby come mid-July.
Super stoked.
It's
Mid-July
gonna be here.
2023.
That's right.
Welcoming a newest addition to the Nurse Coach Collective
Yes,
team.
the world's tiniest nurse coach will be here. For those of you who were at the conference last year, the world's first nurse coach conference, you might remember that Peter stood on stage, much to my embarrassment and chagrin, and announced in front of 250 of our nurse coach colleagues that while we were going to continue to put all of our energy and effort into the world of nurse coaching, we were also going to be putting all of our intentions into the creation of a family. So for
Thanks,
those
y'all,
of
for the
you,
good vibes, for the
yes,
intentions.
who have been sending us good vibes and everything in between, and lots of questions and wondering, like, is it happening? Is it happening? Is it happening? It's happening. And it's happening like very soon. We're counting down the weeks here. And thank you also to our team, who are probably some of the only nurse coaches out there who knows. They've helped us to hold this in privacy until we were ready to share the
Threw
news.
us a really nice baby shower last month. That was really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are beyond thrilled, super, super excited for that next journey of our personal life. Excuse me. Well,
See,
I don't even know.
This is a perfect example of sometimes how the world meld, and sometimes we don't even know which world we're swimming in. People have always told us, oh, well, starting a business together, it's like having a baby together. And we've always kind of said, yeah, okay. I mean,
I'll let you know if that's true.
That makes sense.
In
Yeah,
about
we will
3 months.
let you know if there's any truth to that. I have a feeling that
Maybe it should help.
businesses don't cry and poop their diapers as much, but we'll figure it out.
Heck yeah.
So lots of learning, lots of growth coming our way for sure. Talk about leaning into the growth mindset. We'll be doing a whole lot of that. Thank you in advance for all of your support and all of the best intentions you have sent us over the last year getting to this point. And
nurses,
here we go.
Nurse coaches, the power of partnership. Awesome. Heather, thank you for this time together. Nurses, nurse coaches, stay well, and we will see you all in the next episode.